Hello and welcome back to Middle Age Moto. I hope everything is going well in your world, and doing a quick video today. It is Sunday and 70 degrees. I am out for a cruise. I still haven't changed my clock, so it is actually 12:30. I keep forgetting, and I gotta tighten my mirrors up too. They tend to loosen up on me. What I wanted to talk about today was a conversation that I had with a friend of mine, and the lack of understanding of what he was getting into. So I've got a friend that doesn't ride, and riding, he's very interested in it though. It comes up in conversation a lot. I talk to him a lot about it. He's asked a lot about my bike. He really, loves my bike. And, in conversation, I've mentioned, certain things that, anyone with any experience is going to know. It's very linear. The power doesn't just, and I explained to him that when the power comes on, it's not like, my sport bikes, at about 8 grand or 9,000 RPM is when, boom, it was like someone just kicked the bike in the butt and the bike took off. This is very torque oriented bike. It pulls from way low on the torque curve or on the RPM curve and just pulls straight through. Around 7,000-8,000 RPMs, it kicks up a little bit more, but it's not like rip your arms out jerk like some of my past sport bikes have done. And just that, he asked, do you always have to go fast? Is the bike, because it's 1200, does it run better? I was like, actually, no. You can cruise around slowly with the bike, and you can, it's a good bike for, the style riding I do, the all-around riding. There's a ton of good bikes out there that are more in this style. But when you want to really get on it and hit the back roads, it handles, just as good, if not better than some of my sport bikes. With the suspension I've got, and I've got it finely tuned to me and the whole 9 yards. So as conversations went on, he started showing more and more interests, and he sent me a picture of a R1 that was for sale and said, do you think this would be a good first bike? And I thought, with the conversations, I thought we had spoken about, kind of a crawl, walk, run type of thing, and I even recommended him to maybe go pre-owned on his first bike, just to get, those drops out of the way. When I got my first new bike, I had several, like a V65 Magma, several older bikes through the years, but they were all like very high miles, kind of beat on quite a bit, because I was young and I couldn't afford much more. But I ended up, when I graduated college, I found I shouldn't say when I graduated, I dropped out of college. So when I dropped out of college after 3 years, I did find a job that was paying, pretty good money for a person of my age and my time. So I had some extra. I was still living with my mom and dad, or moved back in with them for a while to get on my feet. But I bought a Yamaha FZR. I've mentioned it numerous times on the different videos. And I'll never forget, my friend had his bachelor party, and I went to his bachelor party, and of course, back in the day, I bibbed, and I was just drilled. I got hammered. So I came home, and it was the day after I had bought the bike. The bike's sitting in the garage, and I was just so ecstatic and excited. So I decided to sit on it. Well, needless to say, I sat on it, lost my footing because I had so much to drink, and just fell over on my side. And didn't cause any major damage, but I scratched some stuff up. So it really hurt, because it's a brand new bike. It was a day old. So I explained that to him also. I said, listen, get your drops out of the way. I also laid that bike down. I screwed up, hit the front brake too heavy on the slippery surface, and the front wheel scooted out, and I was down. And caused a little bit of damage to the bodywork that I ended up replacing, but it still tweaked the handlebars and stuff like that. So I just explained to him these stories and said, listen, get that out of the way on maybe a pre-owned bike or a cheaper bike. You don't want to go dumping a bunch of money in a brand new bike. And then I kind of got into the fact that, you know, an R1 is definitely not in my recommendation, and ask anyone, a good first bike. And so then he said, well, what about me finding a monster? I'll get a monster just like yours. And he goes, it's linear, right? And I guess I didn't do a good job explaining. I said, it's still a 1200. It's still about 150 horsepower. It's too much bike for you. And it's too expensive if you drop the bike. And so I started doing some hunting. And the first thing I told him to do was, you know, the local MSF course supplies, I think they're little Honda 250s, Hawks or something like that, that you ride. They show up, you know, you show up to the place, they issue you a bike. The bikes have already been dropped a million times by other learners. And I said, go through the course and learn as much as you can and decide if it's something you even really enjoy. But then I also told them, you know, the courses is not really going to be a lot of major riding, so, you know, don't use that as your sole judgment, because you're learning, you know, how to ride. But just see how you feel after that. And you're doing it on someone else's. It's, I don't know, less than $200 to take the course. It's a 1 or 2 day course most of the day, and you know, he can get a good feel. And you know, he's a good friend, you know what I mean? I'd give the shirt off my back. But he then asked, he says, well, why don't you take me to a parking lot with your bike and show me how to ride? And I said, you know, if you want to sit on my bike in the garage and I will show you where the controls are and what the controls do, that's fine. But no one rides my bike. You know, I don't care how good of a rider you are. I seldom, well, this bike I've never let anyone ride it, merely because stuff happens. And if something gets messed up on the bike, I'm going to be the one that does it. I don't want to risk that, you know. So then we started, I jumped on my phone and I started going through some, you know, some of the different manufacturers, Yamaha, Kawasaki, and I was showing him some of the 350s and 400s. Now, he's a skinnier guy, he's not big like me, so that would be more than enough bike for him to learn on. He's not going to look goofy on it, and some of them are really good looking. I was probably surprised myself. Some of them are really, really good looking bikes. Kawasaki's got one that looks like a damn, you know, CX-9 for crying out loud. It's a bad looking bike. I mean, different colors, different stuff. So got to sway him toward that. So he is looking into the rider course and still dreaming about the other bike. And I told him, you know, ride for a year and then get yourself, you know, an R6 or whatever's out at the time, or, you know, get a 650, you know. And I told him, you know, he's an older guy like me, our middle-aged guy. I explained that, you know, you're not young anymore, and you know, although sport bikes are a blast to ride, but he's going to want to ride with me, and I'm just out here kind of cruising around, you know. And to be honest with you, you know, in the back of my mind, I was thinking, you know, it'd be nice to have someone to ride with, yes, but not all the time, and especially not a brand new rider. No offense, but I want to be able to get out here. I really, truly enjoy riding alone. It really, I find a lot of enjoyment on just getting out and enjoy it. Go where I want to go, when I want to go, the speed I want to go, stop if I want to stop, and there's no looking in the mirror trying to see, you know, where they are, or following them and freaking out when they're going too hot into a turn and all that kind of stuff. I will definitely, if he decides to go and buys a bike, I'll definitely ride with him, but I'm not going to be riding with him every single time I ride. First thing I'm going to do is take him to a parking lot, and I'm going to work on forcing him to learn slow maneuvers, because I didn't do that myself. I steered away from it, like doing a U-turn and riding real slow. You know, as long as I was in a straight line, I was good, but I never really practiced any of that. I did practice panic stops and stuff like that, especially when I didn't have ABS. And every bike that I buy, I'd go into a parking lot now and I give it, you know, get up to as fast as I can in a parking lot and then do an emergency braking just to kind of get a feel of what the bike's going to do. So I'll do that with him in the beginning and then get him out on the road. But you know, give me your opinion in the comments. You know, were you the guy or gal that just jumped on a you know, a leader bike right out of the gate and you had self-control? It's, to me, it's not a point of self-control. It's a point of those accidental, you know, whiskey throttle, or just going into a turn and just not realizing how much throttle you're pouring on and that kind of stuff. You know, a bike that you gotta wind out, you know, even a bike you gotta wind out, sometimes it's even more fun because you're cranking through gears, you're doing a lot of shifting, you're revving the bike out, you know, you're doing it. And especially to someone new, it's going to seem like the thing was a rocket ship. I remember when I went from, you know, like cruiser style bike to that FDR 600, after I broke it in and I got my first oil change and I cranked it past, you know, I had like a 12 or 13 grand red line. Back then, when I, you know, at 8,000 RPM, that bike would rip your arms off. In my perception, you know, over back in the day, it hit hard. And, you know, that bike seemed so fast, it was unbelievable. And I don't think it hit, I think it was high 80s as far as horsepower. I don't even think it cracked 90 horsepower. And I think the torque was like 35 or 40 foot-pounds. I mean, we're talking, you know, late 80s, early 90s bike. So I don't think he'll get bored right away. And the way I cruise, we'll cruise together. I'm not going to go out and dust him. And plus, I don't want to push him beyond his limits. So I think a smaller bike, something he could bang around. And the thing I told him, I said, there's a ton of people that do it that way. So go on and find yourself a used one that someone bought. And it may have some dings on it, but the price will dictate that. And, you know, get out there and enjoy a bike that someone else learned on and moved up. So I appreciate you guys stopping back in, and I'm gonna continue on this ride and enjoy myself in this beautiful day. It's definitely nice weather to be riding, and I'm excited. I love this time of the year. So I thank you all for stopping in and giving me the time today, and I hope everything's well, and I will talk to you all next week.